When it comes to youth unemployment, and this is also to do, this is something that really matters to our audience, and that is because if you are between the age of 16 to 24 and you are white, there are 19% of your peers who are unemployed. But if you happen to be from a Pakistani or Bangladeshi background, 46%. That's the number. And what are all of you doing? What are all of you doing to address that? Yes, Mr. Sharma. I just want to speak.
I just want to
get the law.
And I think, for the sake of accuracy, the answer was given yesterday in Parliament, and it wasn't disputed about Labour Party. But why did we get into this mess in the first place? It is because of your party, Seema, that we found ourselves in an economic situation where we had to take very tough measures. That measures have been taken. But just take one small example: the amount of number of apprenticeship that have been created in this country, where young people are effectively benefited. And I go even further.
What are you doing specifically for people from ethnic minority backgrounds? Is there anything specific?
That what we need to do is look specifically as to what precisely is going in this community, because some of the figures are hidden. Because
you had 4 years to do that, Lord Dolukia.
What I'm saying is, effectively, you do not have the systematic approach of what is precisely going in the various communities. Take Indian community, for example. Many of the people would be within the same profession within which their parents are shopkeepers, etc.
It's 26% for the Indian community.
You don't necessarily see them. But at the end of the day, there is no system which effectively say there is a bar against anybody applying for apprenticeship.
Okay, Mr. Sharma, how do you address this figure of 46%? I mean, this is a disaster, isn't it?
Let me come back on this point about youth unemployment. Youth unemployment is lower now than it was when we came into power. That is a fact. And Lord Dolukia is absolutely right. One of the key drivers of that has been improving the provision of education in this country, but also apprenticeships, which have been a huge success. We have invested as a government significantly more than the Labour Party ever did in apprenticeship. And I see that when I talk to young people in my constituency from all backgrounds. I have a constituency which is very representative of the country at large. And people of all backgrounds are getting apprenticeships, getting ahead. And when we talk about the number of people from Indian backgrounds, or Pakistani backgrounds, or Bangladeshi backgrounds, again, the fact is there are more people from those backgrounds in employment now than at the time of the last election, and there are more people or less people from those backgrounds on unemployment benefit than there were before.
Specifically, I mean, is there anything specific? Because I mean, 46%, you're basically saying that a whole group of people are sort of left out. How do you address that?
If you are a young person, and it doesn't matter what your background or where you came from, and you were born in this country, and you grew up in this country, you're British. You may be British Indian or British Pakistani or British Bangladeshi. What we're doing as a government is to help all young people. And I've talked about apprenticeship.
Why does the number remain so high then? I mean, 46%, so that's almost like 1 in 2 people, right?
I've talked about apprenticeships, and that's a key way forward. Of course there's more to be done. I mean, no government can sit there and rest on its laurels. Of course there's more to be done, and that is something that we're working on.
It's what feels like some complacency on this issue, and I think that some of this has to start off with schools. Why, in terms of actually, are we dealing with some of the employability? It also has to involve some addressing of whether the applications are going in for jobs and what is happening to those applications, because whether we like it or not, statistics do show that there can be unconscious bias sometimes in the way applications are processed. And so is everybody getting a fair crack of the whip? It's a question we have to ask, but also to say what more can be done.
The number has been consistently high, even during the Labour government, Seema. Why is that?
I'll just come back on this. I mean, sometimes this is where, where people have, we're in communities where parents haven't had as much education either. There can be the need to be working with the parents as well as the children, and where there's poverty in very poor communities where we know that there is particular issues with the Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities in some areas, that you have to work even harder.
What would you do? Specifically, I mean, if Labour was to come back in 2015, tell me one specific thing that you would do for young people from Pakistani and Bangladeshi backgrounds.
I can tell you certainly what we have been saying is that we would have a compulsory jobs guarantee for young people, and we would actually work on making sure that all young people have the basic skills, and we would do that not through penalising them in this way, but actually offering them what they need when they go to a job centre. That's absolutely critical.
Yeah, very briefly, Mr. Sharma.
Sure. Can I come back on this point where Seema talks about seeing, whether enough people are applying from various communities? I put forward a suggestion in Parliament a little while ago about having a voluntary code from companies setting out who's applying, who's getting jobs. And actually the Labour Party said it was a rubbish idea. They're on record as having said a rubbish idea. So there's no point SEMA now turning up and saying we should be looking at applications, all the rest of it, because they've made it absolutely clear that that isn't the route they want to go down.
Is it a rubbish idea?
Can I just come in on this? Because it would actually be part of good corporate practice or good other practice. It should be
why did
to
the
be able to
Labour
try.
Party
So I
do
think,
it when I
I
suggested
think,
it?
I think this
what
point.
do you personally think? Is it a rubbish idea?
I think actually, well, look, I think you have to also say what is your record on this, because we've always said that you have to look at what did your government say. I mean, I want to come back on this. Look, for example, at public boards. Look, for example, at public boards where you're talking about ethnic minorities on public boards.
So you're saying it is a good idea,
Which
right?
have dropped under the choice. Look, any corporate, any organisation should be able to track and should be able to raise questions to itself about how is it advertising for opportunities.
No, that's all
And
okay. But specifically on Mr. Sharma's point, do you think it is a rubbish idea, or do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I've never said it's not about it being a rubbish idea. Sometimes you have to think about how these are being implemented.